season 9 of the I'm Uncomfortable podcast, the podcast for people who want to be okay with being uncomfortable. We're your hosts, Vanessa
and Melissa.
And we're back with another season of exciting mental health and relationship and sometimes wellness topics that make us very uncomfortable. But as per our tradition, we always kick off with what has made us uncomfortable lately. And so, Melissa, I'm going to pass it over to you to talk about what has made you uncomfortable.
Working on my mobility as a 32-year-old is making me uncomfortable.
I read that. I was like, what does that mean?
And when Vanessa says I read that, we have notes that we share with each other for each episode, so she saw my little uncomfortable moment note to myself.
It's like, okay.
Right. And so I've been seeing, it's been one of my goals for this summer in general, hopefully going to follow it through the rest of the year and beyond. But I've been seeing a lot on TikTok and on Instagram reels about how, you know, either side of the spectrum, there's like super fit, athletic, like 30-year-olds doing their thing. And then on the other end of the spectrum, they're like, oh, it hurts to get out of bed. Like my lower back hurts. And I can relate to those things. Like I spent the past year so far trying to search for a pillow that will support my neck and my back the way that I need it to, because I've been waking up with a stiff neck. And I think I finally found one. I'm looking over to the side if you're watching the episode, because I'm looking at my bed currently, and I'm so proud that I finally found a pillow.
Did you? What's the pillow?
It's not like a fancy pillow. I went the fancy route, and then I went the IKEA route that had like the dip for the neck, for the head to rest in. Yeah. That worked for a little bit, and then it got like two. Anyways, that's a whole other thing. But long story short, found a pillow that is from Target, affordable. It's just like the right firmness and like support for a side sleeper like me. Yeah. So anyways, those things I've been seeing on social media saying that like 30-year-olds are all joints are all creaky and all these things, and I was like, no, I'm going to I want to be like those old Asian ladies that are taking their power walks at the park, and absolutely. They're like super flexy and all those things. Like, so I'm working on it. I'm trying to do my stretches and my like yoga and all those things so that I can maintain my mobility. Because honestly, I did have a recent kind of snap into reality because of gratitude, really, because I recently went on like a hike, and not a hike, it was a walk down to the beach this past weekend, and it requires,
that's what 30-year-olds call a hike, I guess
it's a hike only because on the way up for this particular beach, yes, it's really, really steep, and like a really steep climb back up because it was in PV. And so I was hiking up and I was huffing and puffing. Finally got to the top, and then it was this whole thing because there was unfortunately a beached whale at that local beach. And there, like, a lot of people were like gathered around and like seeing what was going on and stuff. So we went all the way down. Came back up. I was huffing and puffing, and there's this like old man at the top of the hill, and he's like, "Did you get to see what was going on?" And I was like, "Yeah, we were just down there." And he's like, "Yeah, it's too hard for me to walk down there. Like I wouldn't be able to walk back up." And I was just like, "Oh my god, I have binoculars. Do you want to borrow?" Oh my god. You know, like I felt so bad, and then I also like felt so grateful for the fact that my legs can still take me up that hill. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so I'm like, let me try to maintain that for as long as I can.
Yes. So. Okay, but tell me why Leo brought me to a beach just like that up here in the city called Black Sands Beach. And as I'm walking down, I was like, this is going to be a bitch to get back up.
That's why I was like, do we have to go all the way down? I want to go all the way down.
We had to get to the beach. You had to walk all the way down. Otherwise, you're just on a hill. Yeah.
Especially when you're going to the beach and you're like bringing a towel and a bag.
It was like a 20-minute trek back up, and I stopped to catch my breath at least 5 times. It was rough, and it was just incline. Yeah.
I was like, damn you, Stairmaster, you've done nothing for me.
Not me canceling my hot yoga class tonight, though. It's just not increasing my mobility at all.
A balance of rest and movement, you know what I'm saying?
I'll just go on a walk. I've been loving my walks lately because I took a break from... July was just really busy, and we're recording this kind of early-ish August. To me, it's early, and life was so jam-packed. I didn't have time to really think about anything, and so I just put everything on pause. Yeah. And I need to get back into doing stuff. My hip's been hurting. Unclear.
Dude, yeah, I've been doing hip mobility stretches. I'll send you some.
Maybe that's what I need to do. My hip's been hurting. I need to hit up Michael, our physical therapist buddy, who was actually on one of our episodes. If you go all the way back to, what was that, season 1?
I think that was season 1.
Jesus Christ. Maybe he can help me with my hip. But also, one of the things that I did in July, which maybe has been contributing to my hurt hip, and now that I think about it, is that I moved. So for y'all watching the podcast, you can see that I'm not in my normal surroundings because I am in my new place. And I've been trying so freaking hard to Tetris everything into my spot in the way that I want it. And first of all, I couldn't even live here the first week of July. I was couch.
Oh my God.
It was bonkers.
I forgot you were telling me about this. It was a whole ordeal of moving.
Yeah. I was couch surfing. It was wild. And then I wasn't even here. I was on a work trip, and then I had the hula performance, which I stayed somewhere else. And then what did I even have? I went camping. Whatever. So anyways, I haven't been able to move in. And the things that fit in my smaller place, for some reason, are not fitting in my bigger place. This thing over here in the back, it used to be such a handy dandy coat rack, my quick coats that I always need to go out.
Yeah, your everyday things. Yeah.
My everyday things. For some reason, it's just not fitting anywhere. And it fits kind of right there, but it's ugly right there. There's just no...
It's blocking the window and
Yeah, and I also have a closet now. Because I didn't have a coat rack closet before, but I have one now. So I don't know.
Maybe you store that or sell it on Facebook Marketplace.
I was going to try to sell it on Facebook Marketplace because Instagram's been targeting me with ads for this couch that I kind of want now.
Didn't you just get a couch from somewhere?
I did, but now it's not really fitting in the new space. Ironically, the whole idea of moving was to save money, and I think I'm just spending all the money that I saved to furnish everything. Yeah. I bought these 2 new hanger things to try to and at one point I was gonna buy different organizational things for the closet, and I was like, Vanessa, why don't we try to make what we have work? Because that was the whole point.
You're scolding yourself.
I was the whole point was to save money. So a new couch is a very different investment than organizational pieces that you already kind of have. So anyways, I might have to just get rid of stuff. It's one of those things where
it's interesting because you're coming from a smaller space.
I know. And I think I just need to remember that I have a living room now and that I have more storage now. So all the things that I kind of Tetris crammed into different spots don't need to be in those same spots.
Yeah.
So it's just a little bit of getting used to. Although there is a package outside with a vanity in it, so.
Oh, I thought you got the vanity already.
Well, it's outside.
Oh, perfect.
So anyways, just growing pains, so to speak, which kind of brings me to our next topic, because growing pains, Melissa and I have both experienced this very specific growing pain, specifically when it comes to our relationships. And the topic
and
of
family
today,
and friends, for me specifically too. I've tried to pull examples. Anyway, going in and jumping ahead.
It's becoming very strong for me currently in my new relationship. But the topic we're talking about today is foreboding joy. And funnily enough, I actually learned about foreboding joy as part of a work professional development session years ago. I don't even know the context. Why was that even important to us learning how to manage children in a classroom? But anyway, we learned about foreboding joy, and if you haven't heard of it before, it's a phrase coined by author and researcher Dr. Brené Brown. You may have heard of her. And it can be described as a feeling that you get when joy is followed very quickly by thoughts of worry or dread, and that inner dialogue of but what if? Or enjoy it while it lasts, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and according to this article that we're reading, it's essentially a reaction-based on a thought that you can't be extremely disappointed if you don't feel extremely happy. So essentially you kind of cut your moment of joy or whatever you're experiencing that is a positive thing happening in your life with this negative thought, so that you kind of don't have the opportunity to let yourself down,
be let down,
if that makes sense.
But the funny thing is, and I know this logically, thinking that negative thought or that like, oh, foreboding joy thought, it doesn't make me any less disappointed when things don't work out.
Right.
It doesn't actually prepare me.
Yeah. And in reading the article too, it like can even become something even more serious, and you can actually get diagnosed with I forget the term. Let me pull the term or the condition. It's like cherophobia. So
which is like fear of joy, right?
Yeah, so it's like foreboding joy stops you from seeking happiness, attending social events. It's as if foreboding joy stops you from seeking happiness, attending events, or impairs important areas of function. It may be a candidate for cherophobia diagnosis.
Okay, so if it's preventing you from actually going and experiencing things that would provide you joy in the first place because you don't want the foreboding part. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know that this came up because I was telling Melissa I'm in an amazing new relationship. I'm so happy. And also...
Sorry. Okay, we're not going to go down
Well, I know that, like, last season, I was like, life happens.
There was a lot of life happening.
A lot of life was happening. Some learning, some growing. And being in this new relationship has made me realize a lot of things that I value. And, like, I'm in a much different place and it feels really good. However, that being said, I feel like the trauma from my last relationship... favorite word is, and I don't even want to call it trauma, but whatever. Like I'm half being silly, but it's made me think these thoughts specifically. Like when he tells me something really affirming or he's being very sweet, it's like, oh, my head is like, oh, well, enjoy it now because he won't always be this way. And I'm like, whoa, shut the fuck up.
And that's you're on your brain being like, oh, okay, well, remember when like we had this negative thing happen to us? It's pulling from that and being like,
it's like, remember when you were happy once and then you were sad about something? Remember when it turned bad? It could do that again.
The article was also saying how foreboding joy can be a natural way that your body and your brain is trying to protect yourself from vulnerability. And what is relationships?
Vulnerability.
But being vulnerable.
Like, very vulnerable and scary. Yeah. It's funny too because I remember when you first started dating your current boo thing, you were like, I feel like we should give them nicknames. Boat Boy. Didn't we call him Boat Boy for a bit?
He could be Boat Boy, yeah.
When you first started dating Boat Boy, I remember you telling me, like, it's scary. And I was like, I kind of get it. And I did, but now I really get it. And also, it's just, I think it's because I'm like, oh my gosh, I have found something so amazing and so great and so wonderful. Yeah. And I know that I'll be okay. I've proven time and time again that I'll be okay no matter what happens. But also, I remember how much that sucked when it ended.
Yeah, and I remember in that time when I was sharing that with you saying, and I still say it from time to time as like a joke, but like really though, it really had to be, this relationship had to be, or the potential for this relationship had to be worth me leaving my perfectly fine.
I remember you saying that, well, because you'd put so much work into protecting your peace and being at one with yourself and being happy and with your life, and so I get it, right? Like this potential partner or this person period just has to be worth potentially
that risk
fucking that all up.
Yeah, dude.
And I get it. I very much get it, especially because when I first went on a date with,
what are we calling yours?
I don't know. Oh my gosh. We'll think about it. When I first started going out with him, I was going to give up actually because I kind of burnt myself out trying to go
I remember
dates.
I was like, have you just spent some time alone?
I had, and also I got into this headspace where I was like, well, if I want a partnership with somebody, it's not going to happen if I just sit here, and I'm not going to get over. I kind of did it very fear factor where I just faced my fears. It was like a cold plunge because I was like, well, I'm not going to get over what I'm in or find what I want if I'm not trying. Yeah. And it's not that I'm not ready to try. I knew it was that I wasn't ready. I was scared, which is very different. And so I was like, just go, just do it. But then I burnt myself out doing it. And then I was like, you know what? If this last date doesn't really pan out, I'm going to take a break. And now here we are. Yeah, and so I just keep having these thoughts of foreboding joy. And I'm going to talk to Jillian, my therapist, if you're new to the podcast, about it tomorrow. We have a session. But I'm like, ugh, because I already brought it up to her. And part of her advice when I first brought it up, when it was first happening, was the reminders to myself that it's okay and that I will be okay no matter, like, yeah, if that thing doesn't work out, I will still be okay. So I've tried to remind myself of that, but it's still happening. So maybe she can give me a pill that'll fix it. I'm just kidding. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, fix all my problems like ibuprofen does sometimes with our achy hips and our like headaches.
I can't. But yeah, so I don't know. You earlier when we first kicked off the episode, though, you were thinking of examples beyond just your romantic relationship. Mm-hmm. So tell me about it outside of that context.
Yeah, I suppose we've kind of talked. I think we've made an episode on talking about, or maybe we just shared uncomfortable moments about our parents getting older and like time spent with them. And so I sometimes find myself in moments where I'm like with like family members, with loved ones, and I'm like, this is such a great time. And then I think about like fast forward into the future, I'm like, we're not all gonna be like healthy or like together, or like, you know, life changes. And I go down that spiral of like, enjoy this right now because, you know, it's not always going to be like this.
Oh my gosh, you know? Wait. Now that you're describing it that way, I have had those thoughts recently with my mom.
Mm-hmm. And aging we definitely parents is like gets me.
We had an episode about our parents aging that people very much related to. And I think, you know, she just had a birthday. Evelyn's a thriving 72 now and still causing chaos. And there's
a whole story on that too, of me having to sneakily deliver.
You guys, I felt so bad. I forgot her birthday. I had been sick and I don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't thinking. And then I fell asleep really early that night. And the next morning I see her texts and it was like, no, there's only 10 minutes after my birthday and you didn't greet me, hoo hoo hoo. And I was like, oh my God, I'm the worst daughter in the entire world. So luckily Melissa came through as my flower delivery girl, had to sprint away from the house to avoid conversations with my mom because my mom loves to talk. Thank you for that.
And more so I had to head to class, so I was like, I can't get caught up in the auntie chats.
Get caught in the auntie chat. No.
I almost got caught by Pugly though.
The stupid dog. Spugly the ugly Pugly. That dog is a menace to society.
Anyways, sorry to divert.
It's just no, but that's fine. But I think about it sometimes and I'm like, oh my gosh, she just got older. Like, and then it makes me feel pressured because I know she wants grandkids and I'm still not. I feel like I'm going to be a teen mom if I have kids tomorrow, which I'm 32, so no. But I still feel that way. So all of it just makes me like, bleh. And the foreboding joy piece comes in because I'm like, well, she won't be able to be mobile with the kid for that much, for very long. And if you want her to be engaged and involved, you should do it now. And oh my God. Bleh.
I hate that could be another episode we talk about because like that's been a conversation that's been coming up a lot in our circles because we're in our early 30s and a lot of us are like childless, so
it's too expensive.
Expensive. There's this video that I saw of like people standing in like this open field and they're like millennials painting and renovating their houses, and it's like just nothing. Like, because we can't afford a house. So, like, how? And then in the comments, it's like, and in the comments, people are like, fake headlines of like, why aren't millennials having kids? Or like, you know,
so funny.
Like, maybe because we can't afford anything.
I know. But does it, okay, like, when you have these moments, though, do you feel like it ruins the current moment that you're in? How does it affect you in the immediate moment?
Well, I think for me, I try as much as I can in moments to like soak it in, this like joyful moment. I always try to like pull myself out for a little bit and then look at everything. It's like my favorite thing. I guess it's just because I like people watching, but I like to pull myself out of the current situation. I'm like, I just look around and I'm just like, okay. Sometimes that can go the like negative route, the foreboding joy route, where I'm like, it's not always going to be like this. Or I feel that emotion and then it moves along to feeling grateful and practicing gratitude in that, which actually there are 4 ways to deal with foreboding joy that they mention in the article as well, which we'll get to, and one of them is gratitude. But yeah, I'm trying to think of situations specifically like outside of family and friends, like in my current romantic relationship, where it does kind of damper like the situation where I'm like, well, why can't I just, and then I go and tell myself, I'm like, why can't I just enjoy it? Like, just leave me alone, brain. Like, let me live, you know? Yeah, it definitely kind of takes away from the moment, as you said.
I feel at times that it drives a wedge between me and appreciating what's happening, in the sense that I'm suddenly just taken out of enjoying, you know, that thing that's currently happening. And I tried talking about it. I tried telling, you know, my partner, like, hey, I didn't want to bring this up, but, you know, sometimes when you do XYZ thing or say this amazing thing or whatever it is, right, I just have this like negative thought. And he asked me, do you think it's coming from a place of insecurity? Which I thought was a really interesting question. So I sat with that for a while, but I actually don't think it is insecurity. I genuinely think it's fear, and maybe also just, I don't know if it's because we're older, right? But like, I feel the fear because I know that things end. And I know that things end because I've had experiences in life already. Ending. Right, where like things were wonderful, great. I was previously engaged, if you're new to the show, and that unfortunately had to come to an end. And it wasn't a bad end, but it still ended. And almost that makes it worse that it wasn't a bad end, right? Because then it's like, oh, well, life just happens. And so because I know that, because I know that though, it makes it like, I think that's what makes it hard, because I'm like, here I am again. And like, oh, that could happen again. And so that's, for me, I think where the foreboding joy part comes for relationships specifically. With my parents though, well, with my mom, it might be like fear of death and the unknown of what that would be for even myself.
I suppose it is it is this reaction based on, you know, these thoughts. Like, they are stemming from places of fear and change and things that we don't have control. Well, we have control over our fear, but in terms of like change and things ending, it's like we don't always have control over those things, you know?
Maybe Jillian's gonna tell me that tomorrow. She'll be like, hey, remember how you like to control things?
You can tell Jillian's like, actually, I don't need this therapy session because we figured it out on the podcast yesterday.
It's like, hey girl, I actually have notes for myself. Just let me know what you think. Can you review? No, but really, she always tells me, right? Like, control. We all love control. Well, most of us, not all, can't generalize. Most of us like to be in control. And for those of us that really like to be in control, it is one of those things where it's like, well, I can't control where this relationship goes, because you can do your best and, you know, put an effort to be a good teammate and a good partner. But ultimately, life happens. And so,
yeah,
you can't control it. So yeah, maybe that's where it's coming from too, the discomfort of not being able to control. And it's feeling like
predict
we even
the
have
future,
to.
really. You know, you can't really predict what's going to happen. Like,
no.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Well,
I don't like it.
Oh my gosh.
Next.
So uncomfortable. Next. But that's what we're here to do, is we talk about the things that make us uncomfortable. We just run into it. Here is our favorite thing. But there are ways, every episode, we try to talk about what are ways that either other people have suggested to become comfortable with the uncomfortable topic, or ways that we've tried to be comfortable. And I know, Melissa, you mentioned gratitude earlier. So do you want to share some of the ways that we can become more comfortable when foreboding joy enters our space?
Yeah, well, I'll pull from, well, my example, I'll just reiterate, you know, when I do have those kinds of thoughts, I tend to try to cap that thought with the gratitude portion of like, well, how great it is I am experiencing this in this moment.
Yeah.
And going back to the article, it said one of the 4 ways to deal with foreboding joy is rejoicing in everyday gratitude. It helps you acknowledge the positive in your life and finds reasons to feel joy, even in like the smallest of ways.
Yeah.
And I've mentioned this a couple times on the podcast already, but I do practice journaling, a gratitude journal specifically, and I do it daily. And when I don't have my journal near me, I have like a note in my phone to just kind of like capture some of the things that I'm grateful for. And I remember it's almost going to be 2 years since I've been doing this daily gratitude journaling. And I remember when I first started it, I was like, I'm going to say the same thing over and over again.
Yes.
But as I've done it daily, I've learned there are all kinds of different little things that I can be grateful for. So it's kind of like a cute little diary in a way, almost.
Yeah,
like,
and
to
those
go
things
back.
are very nuanced. Even if it's the same thing, sometimes there's a different nuance to it. And actually, I have it on my new little bookshelf, which is super cute. Not going to show you because I am messy in the back. But I actually finally got my way through an entire journal. I finished a journal.
Yay.
Which, like, wow.
Was that the one that was on your nightstand? Like,
yeah, the cute little one. It was given to me as a gift, and I, like, used it very sparingly in the beginning until we started talking about gratitude, building a habit, whatever. So I need a new gratitude journal. So we're going to be releasing a I'm Uncomfortable gratitude journal available for purchase soon if you find yourself in need of a journal to work with. I know I need one, so that's why we're going to make one. But I too have found it to be very useful. And it's actually something I've been, I think, missing doing the past few months since I finished it. And it is nice to look back and reflect and like read kind of like a mini diary, like you said, about all the things that you were grateful for at the time.
Right. And it also, this is another thing that they mention in the article, is cultivating self-awareness. I think gratitude can also help with that reflection part as well. So you're in other ways you can, stop by being more self-aware, practicing gratitude, kind of having that reflection can help stop the negative thought cycle in its tracks. So identifying when you're even having those thoughts.
Yes.
And kind of like, we all have that moment where we're like, hey, why are we not letting ourselves enjoy this moment right now?
Okay. Hold on, because before I started going to therapy, that's not true. Before and when I first started, I wasn't aware that I was having the negative thought. I wasn't able to say like, oh, I'm having a negative thought. It was just my reality. And so like you, if you're listening, might be in a space right now where that just feels like your reality and you're not really noticing it. You just notice that you're feeling negative or whatever it is. And maybe when you look back, you notice that you've had the negative thought. But it's taken years, for me at least, to be able to, in the moment, recognize like, oh, I'm having a negative thought. And it's even harder to be like, and that's okay. We're just feeling scared. Or like, and like past Vanessa, it's going to be fine. Right? Like trying to comfort the part of you, the self-soothing. That's been the harder part because now, and I told Jillian this too. I was like, okay, I know that I'm being negative and now what? And she's like, you don't have to do anything. She's like, Vanessa, you don't always have to do something. And I'm like, feels like I do though. But the thing that I am trying to
identifying it and like acknowledging it is
already big.
Doing something.
She keeps telling me that. She's like, the fact that you can identify and acknowledge it and verbalize it is already a big deal. The self-soothing is going to take time. And I was like, oh my gosh, how much longer am I going to have to keep paying you? Like,
she's like, forever.
But I do think that goes to the next point that I see that you wrote down for us. Thank you. About embracing it as an opportunity to build resilience. Yeah, so trying to use joy and maybe even that recognition as a tool against the foreboding joy. I don't know if you've tried that before. That is a new one for me. I haven't actually tried it.
I'm trying to wrap my head around that one. I guess I haven't gone that far as to like recognize, because I'm always talking about like my mental tools and my toolbox for my mental health and well-being, but like I guess I need to wrap my head around the fact of like utilizing that moment of joy as a way to combat any sort of like the opposite, which is what they list here, despair or like sadness or fear. I don't know. I guess it's like utilizing let me see. Let's see what it says in that section.
Because it's like trying to build your resilience, right? And my understanding of that is, building the habit of, or the practice of being gratitude. I am gratitude. Being grateful, or being able to recognize the foreboding joy and self-soothe. Like, to me, that would build a lot of resilience if I was able to do it, which I'm trying to do.
It says that it's natural for us to feel uncomfortable and it's scary, but every time you use joy as a tool against despair rather than for it, you can cultivate hope and resilience. When those feelings of, but what if this happens, appear, try to challenge yourself to push. I guess you just have to push those thoughts aside. It's like the next step, I think. You're building self-awareness, being able to acknowledge that this thought is happening or this thought cycle is happening. And then I think this is talking about the next step in terms of, like, when you're asking Jillian, like, what do I do? I mean, if you're still working on that, building that self-awareness part, maybe that's as much as you can do.
Right.
But, there could be, once you're ready to build that, to continue in that, self-awareness, maybe you start challenging, like doing stopping it in its tracks and being like, hey, Melissa, like, let yourself have this moment, and let yourself, like I mentioned before, like, let's be grateful for what's happening, like, kind of challenge those thoughts.
To your point about mindfulness, it sounds like the idea of bringing myself back to the moment and being like, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Right? Like that self-soothing piece of, I'm going to try to continue to enjoy this moment, even though I've had that foreboding joy thought.
Yeah. And even the, even bringing it back further of, like, even though you've experienced this thing in the past that has now made you create this foreboding joy type of thought, like, yes, those traumas have happened to you, but you have, we're here now, and past Vanessa, past Melissa has gone through those things and have survived and thrived, and we're here now. Let's enjoy the moment as it is. Okay. But that's hard. That's always easier said than done.
Right. Well, Brené Brown has a fourth strategy that maybe we're not ready for yet, and it's honoring the good, not the bad. Avoid honoring negative outcomes by ignoring your blessings.
Well, I pulled in the notes, I said by honoring the good, by doing that, you bring power to the positive and away from the negative. If someone's lost something and make it that negative thing or that loss has made you sad, that doesn't mean you yourself need to stop celebrating your own joy and your own child, or whatever that metaphor can be transitioned to.
Interesting. I don't know if I've had to implement this. This kind of feels like a more extreme one to me.
It is like a form of, I kind of am relating it back to how we were talking about, I think this was offline, we weren't talking about this on the podcast, but with all of the current events happening in the world right now, it's sometimes we just get so bogged down, and it's like, how can we even just like exist and have this blessed life when so many people in the world are suffering?
Right.
And what this is saying, I think, is like, just because all of this stuff is happening in the world doesn't mean you are required to you're not giving that situation any more honor or tributing respect to it by enjoying what your current circumstance is,
Got it. Okay. Yeah. We have definitely felt that so yeah, it kind of does feel like more extreme, and for me it feels like more bigger context, I guess. Like,
it's like empathy based. Okay. It's very much so like, you don't have to do all this quote unquote like sacrifice or like put this negative thing that happened to you on this pedestal and be like, oh, woe is me, like let's combat that and challenge that by really celebrating and being grateful for the good that is happening,
Well, who knew joy could be so terrifying and scary?
I just am thinking about Inside Out. I don't know if you watched Inside Out too.
I haven't. I've been wanting to so bad. I need a movie night. I haven't had time.
Life's been busy, but it just makes me think of joy, the character Joy in Inside Out, and how complex all emotions are, and
Well, even in the first movie,
yeah.
she was like not okay with being sad. Even the sad enhances the good aspects. So honestly, it's kind of like that. And
yeah,
we have to be able to recognize that we are all complex beings.
Yeah, and like pulling it back to what one of the things we said earlier, it's like foreboding joy is a natural way that we respond to making sure and like protecting ourselves. So it's just about like the way we be more comfortable about it or dealing with it or addressing it is, I think, like knowing what it is first of all, and then taking the next steps that we mentioned of like trying to practice more gratitude and being more present and all of those things. But foreboding joy isn't like the worst thing, you know. It means things are happening, things great are happening.
I know, funnily enough, it does mean that good things are happening, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of a nice, what's it called? Paradox? Is that the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, our complicated little minds love to just try to make things complicated. So, you know, it's like you can't just let us chill and enjoy the moment. We just gotta like be existential about it, you know, sometimes.
Well, so no matter if you are on the baby step of self-awareness is not a baby step. If you are on the baby step maybe of like gratitude journaling, trying to work towards self-awareness, no matter where you are
building self-awareness of any level.
Of any kind, it's really hard. And so no matter where you are on that spectrum or journey, we're definitely here to share that with you. And clearly, like, we struggle with it. We also still struggle sometimes with understanding how to address it. And so we love it though. We love being uncomfortable with all of you, and hopefully this season brings even more discomfort.
More good discomfort for us to talk about with you all.
Well, Melissa, let them know how they can tune in to follow us and listen to more of our fun more of our uncomfortable episodes.
Yeah, so we are now going to be, now that we're back for season 9, we are going to be releasing episodes every single week. So, you know, whether you listen to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you can find us there. I think we're going to start uploading our episodes to YouTube. Since we are already doing video, we might as well just slap them up there. Might as well. So you can see us on YouTube soon. Please follow us on Instagram because that's where we're mostly at imuncomfortable.podcast. DM us if you have episode ideas. DM us if you relate to this episode. DM us to say hi. Just DM us. We want to see.
DM me a picture of your pizza. I don't know. Or your coffee. We love a good coffee shake-in, right, Melissa?
Right. Oh, yes, I definitely do. But yes, that's where you can follow us. And like I mentioned, we are going to release episodes every week. So we will see you then.